I'd struggle to make that relevant to the topic tonight, and because it's about strangers and the concept of strangeness, right? Again, I struggle to see how that's relevant to tonight, and inshallah, I think questions about ISIS, according to my limited understanding, I'm happy to answer them, but probably not in this setting. Inshallah, afterwards, if we can have a chat together afterwards, I think it would be better. Inshallah.
Okay. Any other questions relevant to what has just been discussed? Yes, brother.
So I'm great symposium, brother. So about strangeness and how we feel strangeness, and we can relate to Sirah of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And I guess the only way to bring back, you clearly mentioned that strangeness is going to always be there, and it's not going to ever go away. However, until we get, inshallah, all the brothers here make Jannah safely. But obviously there's a way we can bring it closer in this dunya, and there has to be a certain way. And so, you mentioned specifically we should be following the Sunnah, like sticking closer to the Sunnah, and so many of the scholars, and of course the Hadith clearly state. So doesn't that mean we should be working towards our claim?
Okay, so the brother didn't have the mic, so just for the benefit of everyone else, the question was that we mentioned examples of how we should stick to the Sunnah, and whilst recognizing that the ultimate abode and solace and refuge and the sense of home will only be in Jannah, shouldn't we still strive to manifest and to find a way to feel at home and to not feel like strangers in this dunya itself? Good question. In fact, it's probably the most relevant question to tonight, because the question of Jannah, it's not something that is disputed by anyone. Everyone knows that there's no feeling which is as perfect. There is no positivity, there is no goodness that we'll ever witness in this dunya, and it is in no way comparable to the goodness and the khair and the happiness and the joy of Jannah, right? But what can we do to find that in this dunya? Basically, it has to be a return, and it has to be us clinging on to the Sunnah in every way, right? In our individual lives, as well as in our collective lives, right? We all have lives here in Australia. Majority of us, we live in the West. And I don't mean the West in general, I mean in Western Sydney, right? You have a particular university, college, TAFE that you go to. You have a particular school that you go to. You have a masjid that you go to. You have relations with people in all of these places, just like you have relations with your own family, your relatives in your homes, right, in their homes. And Islam, it came to deal with three types of relationships. One is, as these examples have shown, is your relationship with yourself. And there are sunnah that are particular to yourself, right, about the adab that you should have. There's a hadith in which Rasulullah ﷺ says that I was not sent except to perfect morals. Then there is relationships, that's a relationship with yourself, to implement the sunnah in that aspect. Then there's a relationship between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And just as there are obligations, there are sunan, right? Some which are mu'akkada and some which are ghayr mu'akkada. Emphasized and non-emphasized sunan. And we have to cling on to those. Like we just prayed the Isha prayer here. And generally in the masajid we are encouraged to pray the sunnah prayer. And this is something that we should adopt and accept and try and work on in our lives. Likewise, there are relationships, and this is where it's often forgotten, or we skip this part. But Islam also was revealed to deal with human beings, to deal with other human beings, such as a son with his father, such as a student with his teacher, such as a subject with his ruler. And there are many other examples. A student with his sheikh or whatever, right? Now, this aspect is where a lot of the sunnah are overlooked. Such as the sunnah, in fact, such as the fard of enjoining the good and forbidding the evil. Often it is said that we shouldn't worry about other people, rather we should fix ourselves. This is part of the problem. This is part of the problem, where you just work on yourself. Right? Imagine Rasulullah ﷺ when he got the revelation from the cave of Hira, and he came down. It wasn't long. You know, as we said in the talk, he said, "Dathiruni" to his wife, Khadija radiallahu anha. And she covered him. And she gave him consolation and she gave him support. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, and He revealed in the ayat that immediately followed that incident, Ya ayyuha al-muddathir, qum fa'anzir. Straight away. Right? It wasn't, oh you who are wrapped up or enveloped, stay enveloped. Or stay where you are and fix the problems, or fix, the mistakes in yourself, or advise only your wife. Sure, there are ayat that came which said that you warn those who are nearest to your kin, but the revelation continued. The revelation continued. He asked him to warn the people. And start with those around you, yes. Because if your family is corrupt in some practices, and for you to ignore that and then try and fix the society, it makes no sense. And that's not the sunnah. You work on yourself, and yes, you work on others, but it's a simultaneous process. Otherwise you'd be ignoring the hadith of Rasulullah in which he tells you to enjoin the good and forbid the evil. And the numerous ayat in the Quran, you'd be ignoring them. So how can we find that place? I think the simple answer is that in the three relationships that Islam came to deal with, a human being with himself, a human being with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and a human being with other human beings, is for us to manifest Islam completely. And that will entail, and that will allow us to tread the trajectory that Rasulullah ﷺ himself treaded, right? And he will allow us to find that home, and it will allow us, if we stick to his sunnah tightly, to raise awareness about the sunnah which are relevant to an entire nizam, and it will allow us to bring back what he got post-hijrah, inshallah.
Any more questions? Where's the podcast? Okay, some people might want to write down their questions. Yeah, okay.
I'm just gonna ask. Can I ask one?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it's a good answer. So basically, what you're saying, from what I got, is that it's not enough to just do your 5 daily prayers, and it's not enough to just do the 5 foundations. You have to do more than the 5 foundations. That's what I'm getting from the answer, and we have to work towards a collective. I guess a collective goal, something bigger, even though we are, say, in Australia right now, in Sydney, we are the minority, we still have to work towards a bigger goal. Yeah.
Look, we're speaking about a strangeness that we feel in our hearts, and we've all felt in our hearts. And the question now is the understanding that we should walk away with, that we should work on something more than just ourselves? Yes, absolutely. Right? Because think about it. What is it that makes you feel, when is it that you feel strange? Most strange. It's when you walk out into society. Right? It's not when you're at home. That's not when you feel most strange. Right? You might find something strange if, for example, if a member of your family, someone who's close to you, related to you by blood, insists and is stubborn upon non-Islam. Yeah, it will make you feel strange. You feel like, in my own home, in my own living room. Right? Sometimes parents have this feeling with certain wayward children. that in my own living room, under my roof, I have someone who is stubborn enough not to adhere to Islam. So yes, you might find it, but the majority of us don't feel that strangeness inside the home. We find it when we step out into society itself. And so clearly the problem is not as big in our homes or in our communities as it is in the society itself. Right? That feeling, Ibn al-Qayyim, I'm sticking to this scholar, not by intention, right, but just coincidence, because some of he's worked on a lot on tazkiyah and on purification of the soul and the heart, and so it's relevant. This concept of strangeness. He's spoken about it, and he says, when you attend a khutbah in a masjid, then you feel a boost in your iman. But as soon as you walk outside the threshold of the door of the masjid, then you feel a decrease in your iman automatically. Right? And it's more so because he was still living in an Islamic society. But it's magnified so many times over in the society in which we live in. That we go to a masjid or we go to a talk and we feel connected to the Meccan period. We feel connected because we've heard about the seerah and the principles to which the Nabi ﷺ adhered despite, right, against all odds. And we feel connected suddenly to that time and to that place and to those principles, those timeless principles. But when you walk out the door, you don't find the same environment inside the schools, inside the universities, inside any of the discursive arenas of society, the cafeterias, right, your workplace. You don't find that same atmosphere. So clearly, there's a discrepancy there, and we need to bridge that gap and close that gap between the masjid, so that the way that our heart gravitates towards iman inside the masjid should be similar. It will never be the same because it's a specified place of worship, but we should bridge the gap, and our hearts should also gravitate towards iman in universities, in schools, and this can only happen if we work to change the society as a whole towards an Islamic society.
Okay, excellent. Any more? Yeah, one minute.
I had a thought about when, in terms of uniting, like, the Islamic community, how they've got different sects and different ways of thinking,
Yep.
or how they perceive Islam, like different people. Trying to, like, how you're saying it, would that sort of diminish the whole concept of uniting as one Islam, because you're trying to fit in to these the specific ways of thought. And I just wanted to know what your thought was on this concept of uniting Muslims from different types of perspectives.
Okay, so the question is, what do I think about working to unite the different persuasions within the Muslim community? So I'm going to draw the link with the topic, but I'll give it a shot. I guess what you mean is the environment that is manifested, that could be manifested potentially, because we still feel like strangers amongst each other. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Right? Even though we're Muslims, but we have different persuasions. And you might say, this brother is from this manhaj, or this brother is from this, right? There's some points you need to keep in mind. We all need to keep in mind there. Some of the ideas that we have today push us, and they keep us away from each other, right? Even because, I guess it's because we don't have a correct understanding and a deep understanding of what unity means in Islam. There are three types of unity that Islam demands. Or there are three types of unity that Islam speaks about. One is the Aqeedah, and it is absolutely obligatory for the Muslims to be united on Aqidah. The second type of unity is political unity, which is that it's obligatory for the Muslims to be united under one ruler with the lands and no borders. Right? As was the example of the Muslims for 13 centuries. The third type of unity is unity in jurisprudence, in the fiqh. And that is not where there is, and unity in this aspect is not mandatory. In fact, difference of opinion is absolutely fine in these areas. So when you talk about one manhaj and a different manhaj, and the adherents of this manhaj don't get along with those of the other manhaj, or those who go to a certain masjid don't get along with those who frequent a different masjid, as is the case all around the world, in the Muslim world, in the West and in the East, then I think what is just called for is a clearer understanding of what unity really means. Where is unity required? Where should our priority be? And what is a secondary type of unity? Right? What is the priority? Is the aqidah and the political unity. And the latter, on the basis of the former, is what will bring about the most correct. What I mean is, the political unity on the basis of unity in aqidah is what will bring about a situation for the Muslims where difference of opinion will once again be encouraged. It's not a bad thing. Muslims should encourage and gravitate towards becoming mujtahideen, becoming thinkers, right? Following the way outlined by the Quran and the Sunnah. And then they will have a correct understanding of where we can have differences of opinion and where differences of opinion are prohibited, where they are encouraged, where they are discouraged. And I think so therefore the problem lies in the understanding of unity.
Okay, I think we should take our last question if there is any. So do we have any, one more question? No? Because if there's no more questions, then I might as well